Hi, everyone. Welcome back to She Verse Podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Wright, and today's guest is Tricia. Hi, Tricia.
Hi, how are you,
Thank you.
Brooke?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So, can you tell our listeners what inspired you to start writing fiction?
Wow, my story began when I started writing my experience with anorexia. I was anorexic as a young adult and fast forward 20 years, and I think I was just looking back and thinking, how does one look at some experience like that and what could I take away and what hope I could offer other people? So I just started writing. It was like a movie playing in my head. I wrote a fictionalized account. So I created a character that was much like mine. But so yeah, that's how I started writing.
Oh, okay. So, how do you balance writing across multiple genres?
Yeah, like I said, so that series became a 4-book series called the Being Me series. And it was really more women's fiction, inspirational. I mean, it was set in college settings, so it had a romance component too. But as soon as I finished that series, I jumped really quickly into fantasy. I love reading fantasy. I love vampire fantasies, witches, fairies, all of that. So that's my favorite genre to read, and so that's really what I wanted to like focus my writing on.
Oh, okay. So, how do your surroundings influence your storytelling?
Oh, and I guess I didn't really answer that question. How do I balance it? I usually write one fantasy book, and then I do romance next, so I switch back and forth because find that writing fantasy is really intense for me. I mean, you have to kill characters sometimes, the stakes are very high, and I get like an emotional hangover from that. So what I do next usually is write a romance where the worst thing that can happen is somebody gets dumped. so
Yeah.
um so yeah, that kind of works for my emotional health there. And sorry, but what was the second question?
That's fine. So how does your surroundings influence your storytelling?
Well, I feel like in as often happens, whether I'm walking or hiking, I live in Colorado. We have some beautiful mountains. We do a lot of hiking. I my mind just and when it's quiet, I guess being in nature, it's quiet. My mind wanders more. Like I just think better when I'm outside and when maybe it's quiet, and my mind just makes up different scenarios for my characters. So that's usually when I get my best ideas.
Okay, okay. So this is a little bit of questions about your newest release. It's about to re-release on the 25th, I think I read. Um, so what inspired the Realm Chronicle series?
Right. So the 29th, the finale comes out on the 29th. So I'm super excited about that. But I was at a book signing and a girl came around with an advertisement for an anthology, and she wanted short stories of fantasy characters with mental health challenges. So I thought, I can do that. I mean, I write about mental health already. And the advertisement had a fairy who was crouched in a meadow, and she looked either anxious or scared or something. And I'd never written about fairies, never really read about fairies, didn't really know much about fairies at all. But for some reason, this fairy caught my eye. So I kind of created her story around well, what was she anxious about, or what was she scared about, what was going on with her life. And I wrote that short story with Queen Titania, who you see in the background. Um, and the anthology didn't go anywhere. I don't know whether, the person decided not to do it. Anyway, I had this little short story. And then at the time, I was finishing the Kingdom Journal series, which is a witch witch series. um, and the witches needed an army to help them fight an evil vampire army. So I thought, I wonder who can come help the witches. The fairies can come help the witches. So Queen Titania and her fairies come to help the witches in the Kingdom Journals finale, which is Kingdom of War. And then when I needed or was my brain was looking for like the next jump off series, I thought, I could just give this fairy queen her whole series.
That's cool. So, how would you describe the queen to a new reader?
She's very young, so she's 15, and all four of her older brothers were killed in a battle 3 years prior to where the story starts out. And her kingdom again is being threatened by the same enemy that killed her brothers and the rest of her family, except for her mother and father. And ever since then, she's been training, she's been studying because now she knows she's going to be the next monarch. And there's a battle that she um, is able to stop this enemy from invading their kingdom when her father had just told her, hide in the castle and be safe, right? And she's like, no, I'm not going to hide in the castle and be safe. I'm going to figure out how to stop this. So her father is injured in the battle and kind of realizes he is getting too old to be king and hands her the crown. Well, she's the first female in the realm ever, and they've never had a monarch this unwed or female or as young as she is. So all the other monarchs are thinking, I'm not sure if this is going to work. We don't know. And even some of her father's advisors decide that they're not really sure if she should be their leader either. So some of them band together and pose a threat to her. They offer someone else that should be king, and there's a big trial. They have to do like a trial about history and skills, and they have to fight basically to the death, which isn't great when you're like, so she goes through all that and she is able to keep her crown. And she even goes through a time where she's like, should I really do this? Maybe if so many people are questioning this, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe somebody else is better. So she has to make that decision on her own too.
Oh, okay. So, did any mythology or folklore inspire the series?
Not really. I just kind of went in and did it all on my own. Like I said, I'd never read that much about fairies or the fae, except where, you see them in like Midsummer Night's Dream or Peter Pan, right? Or I didn't know everybody else were writing like wingless fae. I didn't know that the fairies supposedly would be harmed by iron. I guess I had heard that fairies couldn't tell a lie, but my fairies can tell lies. My fairies have wings. Iron doesn't bother them. So I didn't follow any of those conventional rules. And when I went back and did all this research, I was like, oh, I hope nobody's offended or thinks I'm wrong. But after reading lots of fairy books now, I realize that everybody does their own little take on the fairies. So that's good.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, what were the first elements you designed in the Realm Chronicles world?
The first, I had to have a place for them to live, but because it was coming off the Kingdom Journal series, which was a contemporary, more like urban fantasy series, where the witches and the vampires were living among the humans, but the humans don't know they're there. Most of the humans don't know they're there. The fairies had to be somewhere, right? Where were they living? So I made them living just under our bedrock. So they access the human realm through these fairy rings that are powered by these special crystals, and they go sort of like under our dirt or under our bedrock that we live on as humans. And their world basically mirrors our world. So, but their only source of light and water is through these fairy rings. So they have these fairy rings spaced throughout that when it rains up here on Earth, the rain falls into their realm. And when it's sunny, the sun goes into their realm. So they have plants and animals and all of those things, but they don't have our modern technology. So they have decided that they don't need computers or cell phones or electricity. So it's very medieval feel. And I call it Middle Earth because it is in the middle between like the human realm and where Hell or Sheol is, which is what I call Lower Earth.
Oh, wow. So, how did you name your fantasy characters and places?
You know, going back, I probably would have named Titania something different, and I realized that it's pronounced Titania in like Midsummer Night's Dream, and In Midsummer Night's Dream, like King Oberon, which I have a King Oberon as her father, and in Midsummer Night's Dream, I think King Oberon is like her husband, or Titania's husband, or something like that. But I just Googled fairy names, and I was like, oh, these are cool names. I like them, and I like that because I kind of assumed it was pronounced Titania, and I like that it sounded like a strong metal name, right? So yeah, I was just Googling, and a lot of my names, and people who read my books will notice that I will find names to fit the characters. So, like Thanatos means death, and that was one of the witches in my Kingdom Journal series, and he was one of the evil people, right? And so I'll do that quite often. So I don't want to give too much away, but there are some magical elements to some of the fairies, and some of them are named based on what kind of magic they can do.
Nice, nice. And where can my listeners find this book?
So the books are all on Amazon. The first three books are already out in audiobooks, so on Audible and anywhere you buy paperbacks. My website is triciacopeland.com, so you can find them there, and they'll have all the links.
Okay, nice, nice. So, what inspired you to write Perfect Office Pack?
Perfect Office Pack. So Perfect Office Pack is part of the Perfect Romance series. So it's the fourth book in the series that started with Perfect. So it follows a group of friends that all attended the University of Kentucky in Lexington together. And so each book is with a different friend and her love story. The first book is a little bit different because it follows one character, Chloe, and alternate versions of her happily ever after. So you see her in college, and her high school boyfriend decides, I'm going to propose to her and we're going to get married. And she says yes. And then you see her make another decision. Oh, she's not going to marry the high school guy. She's going to say no to him because it's not right yet. And then there's another guy that, at a different time in her life. So it's kind of like an alternate ending, pick your own romance. But I followed that with Perfect Always, which also shows Chloe's Chloe's story, but her ending with her happily ever after. And then the third book is As Close to Perfect, which is Bree's romance. And then Perfect Office Pack is with Mira, who is another one of the friends in this group. And I just wanted something different. Like I'd never written an office romance, and I get a little edgy in this one. So it's her boss that she has the problem with, and he is autistic or slightly autistic, and he steps over a boundary, like not really meaning to. He wants to help her, and he helps her find her dad. And then she's like, no, this was not right. You dug into my personal information to find this person for me. That's great, but you crossed a line. And so then she decides, well, if you're going to cross the line, I'm going to take advantage, and I won't tell anyone that you crossed this line if you help me. Like if you help me be a better real estate agent. So he starts tutoring her and helping her. So that's sort of the dynamic there.
Oh, wow. So, how would you describe Mira and Declan? Is it Declan?
Declan.
Declan.
At least, yeah, Declan is how I envision it's pronounced. Yeah, so Mira is kind of scrappy, and she started in a different job which she didn't love, and then she decides to go to real estate school. So this is her first job in real estate, and yeah, she's just that scrappy personality who's gonna like put on her boots and get in there and make it happen for herself, which is kind of why she's like, okay, well, if you cross this line and you did this to me, then I'm gonna take advantage of a little bit, right? So it's kind of morally gray in my idea, but obviously they're all happily ever after books. So that was really fun, and I've never written a character that was neurodivergent before, so I did a lot of research on autism and neurodivergency and how that might look if someone was like functional in a business setting, and what their challenges and issues might be, and where they might be as far as romantic interest or even having that type of relationship.
Oh, okay, neat. So, was any part of their relationship inspired by real life experiences or anything?
No, Not really. I mean, I think probably for a lot of my characters, I take different little pieces from people I know. Um, and I like to mirror like lots of different cultures and ethnic backgrounds. My background is sort of diverse as well, so I like to just take little things from different parts of my background and my friends, and all my characters are probably a mishmash of different ones.
That's cool. That's cool. This sounds like an interesting read. It kind of reminds me of I forget that movie. It was no, it was a TV show, but I forgot what it was. And it's like she worked in a. I'm trying to think. She worked in like a warehouse to where they build like electronics. It kind of reminds me of that. And her boss had was on the spectrum, and
Oh,
they go in
interesting.
love though. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
it reminds
okay.
me of
So
that.
I think I started watching that series, and I didn't keep going, but I think I know. Yeah, I don't remember the name of it too.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I just saw it like a couple of months ago, and I started the first one, but I didn't really follow up. But I think I don't remember the name of it now. Yeah.
Oh man, it kind of like slipped my mind too. So how do you write romantic chemistry without giving too much away? Like, how did you write it?
It but definitely in that book, it grows slowly. Like at first, she's really mad at him. She doesn't like him at all. She doesn't trust him. She's just gonna like use him to get ahead in her job. And then slowly, she realizes, um, she warms to him, I guess, and realizes that he does have a good heart and he is trying and he is making, he's like misunderstood and his mannerisms and how abrupt he comes across
Oh
and
yeah.
things like that. So it's definitely a slow burn, it's going to take a while to get there romance.
Oh, okay. I like that. So, what did you enjoy more about this, writing the dialogue or the description?
Um, I guess, it's a balance. I like writing dialogue. And when I first started writing, my editor was like, okay, because I wrote it like a movie in my head. And so most of it was dialogue. There wasn't very much. I mean, there was some description, but it was mostly like people talking, and there wasn't much action or any of that. So my editor really helped me come because I wasn't a creative writer. I'd never been a creative writer. I'd been a technical writer. And I was just like playing this movie in my head with the characters. So I really had to learn that balance between how much dialogue you put in and how much action or all of that. So I think I strike a good balance with my books. And yeah, it's kind of you have to find creative ways to show things in other ways sometimes.
Okay, okay. So, what was the hardest scene to write in, I guess, both books? What was the hardest scene to write in both of your books?
So Perfect Office Pack and the romance, it was hard for me to decide because I did want to show like their love story looked like once they got together, right? Once you saw it working. So that piece was kind of the hardest for me to write and like how that actually worked when they were being a functional couple and a dysfunctional or two dysfunctional people maybe. And to write the scene where he um, he takes her to meet her father, and he's basically a stranger to her at that point because she's like 2 weeks into this, very soon into this job. He's her boss. And how uncomfortable would that be, right? It was like ick almost. um, and so yeah, that was hard to write. In my fantasies, obviously, I have characters. I We talk about killing our characters, and so
Yep.
those are always the hardest to write. Or when you put your major character in a predicament where you're not well, the reader is not sure if they're going to make it out of this, and that's why I have to write the romance because I can't keep doing that to my characters.
Yep, that's true. So, what's next after To Be Foe and The Perfect Pack? Like, what's next on your writing board? Are you working on anything else, or?
I am like I have two romance. So To Be a Fae releases and finishes the Realm Chronicles series, which it was funny because I was just doing another interview earlier today, and they asked, what was next, and or how I felt at finishing this book. And when I first finished it, and I finished writing like 6 months ago, so you just do all this stuff ahead of your release, right? And at first I felt relieved, like I was super happy for their happily ever after, and then I just felt relieved that I didn't have to put them through another trial or tribulation or somebody else coming for these characters. But now the further I get away from it, the more I miss them. So I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have ended that. But I have some that there are a lot of new characters even, and they're kind of, minor characters that come into the plot of To Be a Fae. So there's a couple of those. There's a Nyx and there's a Selkie, that may have interesting stories that I think I can do spinoffs for. In the romance category, I have two more friends in their friend group. I have Danny, who I kind of know her story, like her major love interest. And then the other character is Ella, who I can't decide which one to write first. So I put some of it out to my newsletter group, and they're helping me like round out Ella's story, because we don't know much about her in the Perfect Romance series. All we know is like her in passing from their college days. So we don't know what she's been doing since college, or where she moved, or what's going on. So I let my readers kind of pick the city, or what's her favorite food, or what's her favorite genre to read, or what's her favorite hobby. So that's been a lot of fun. I'm about to like release the results of that poll to my readers pretty soon.
Nice. So do you have an ARC? I think that's what they call them, the ARC readers, where they read your stuff before.
I do, yes. I have a great group on the fantasy side as well as on the romance side. So I love getting feedback from them, and all along the way. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So my last and final question before I let you go is, what advice would you give inspiring like authors, like someone who is just starting out, like myself?
My thing is like, just write, just keep writing. I think that's what I mean, like if I write every day, it seems like it comes faster. I get more ideas. And usually like if I'm driving in the car, if I'm doing chores, I'm thinking about my characters, and I'm thinking, oh, what happens next, or what can happen next? Or I'm thinking, did I portray that character correctly? Do I need to go back and tweak something? And then so if I'm doing it every day and thinking about all the time, then more ideas just keep coming. So I think just to write it out, just to get it on paper, and then you can fix it. You can fix plot lines, and you can fix character arcs, and you can fix all these things like after the fact. Like the last book I wrote, I sent it to my editor, and she was like, the first 10 chapters are boring. Well, there's only 20 there's only 20 chapters in the book. I was like, that's half the book. Half the book is boring. Like, so, I had to go back and say, okay, how do I make this not boring? Like I thought I had a lot of good character development, but she was like, no, you had to have more action. You got to fix it. So, yeah.
Ooh, okay. Thank you so much, Tricia, for being a guest on my podcast. You have a great day.
Thank you too. Bye.
Bye. Hey everyone, I want to thank you so much for listening to my interview with Tricia. Definitely go check out her books. I know I will. I'm into fantasy books and romance, so definitely will be checking out her books. And hope you have a great day. See you next time for the next interview. Bye.